Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. My name is Athena, and this is episode 10, the final episode of the season one of Unrestricted Live. I'm super happy you are here and you're joining us. Just really quick before we kick off, I wanted to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about Unrestricted. So, as I mentioned, my name is Athena. I'm a business, events, and marketing strategist, and I'm also a productivity coach. And I am really passionate about this idea of unrestricted, which to me is about embodying living differently and breaking off the shackles of the societal norms that cause us a bunch of stress and anxiety. And this podcast is a celebration of the women that are doing things differently. They're going against the norms in one way or another, and they have a really great outlook on life. So on these conversations, we explore all their passion areas and their things about, mindset and how they get through these things and how they live their life a little bit differently and embody, that idea of I can create my own happiness and I can redefine success on my own terms. So I'm really excited for today's guest. She's a massive inspiration and somebody that I just love the more layers that I get to unpeel about this woman. So without further ado, I want to introduce Jen Fairbairns, life coach. Hello.
Hi. Hi.
How are you?
I am so good. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited. And I can't wait to just get chatting.
Can you hear me okay? Because I just got a little comment here that there's no sound.
I can hear you okay.
Okay, great. So yeah, if nobody else can hear, maybe leave a little comment. But if you're hearing me, then it should be coming through. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So, okay, hi. Let's restart. How are you?
Awesome. Yes, I'm very good. I am currently sitting looking out my window here in Scotland, live up outside of Edinburgh, and the sun is shining, which isn't always a given when you live in Scotland. But it's a beautiful evening, so I'm feeling good, feeling zen.
That's amazing. I love the summers up there because the days just last forever.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited you're here. If you can just kick us off by just telling us a bit about your career background, Whistle Stop Tour, because you've done so many amazing things. So just give us a quick tour of your amazing life.
My amazing life. Right. I'm originally from Sweden, north of Sweden, proper countryside. I'm from the sticks, as you would call it. But so about when I was about 20 years old, I moved down to Milano in Italy and started working as a model. And that was kind of my career path for a good 15 years. And I ended up in the UK and then ended up meeting my husband, who is from Scotland, in London, and kind of got stuck in London, if you like. But and then I kind of continued modeling, but I had more aspirations, so I kind of tried setting up little other businesses. One was like a specialty cake, and then one was I studied interior design and wanted to do interior design, but nothing really stuck. And then I had my two girls, and whilst having our second girl, my husband set up his own business called 1 Year No Beer, which is a movement, a program which is a challenge really that helps people transform their relationship with alcohol. And so I kind of ended up starting to work for that. I was like a 2-year volunteer, first of all. I was like the errand girl I would like, but I kind of started being more and more involved with the members of 1 Year No Beer and really helping people, through their challenges, supporting them. And I would say that I was more like the motivator, helping women and men kind of just changing that mindset and, focusing on goals, etc., rather than that one focus of like, I must not drink. So during doing all that, I realized, well, I realized I had a knack for it. I could really get through to people. And so that kind of, I got more and more involved there, and I just absolutely loved it. And I was especially active on like the fitness side, because I was really getting into my fitness again after my first and second child. But I realized I was coming to an age where I was kind of in my late 30s, and I was like, feeling really good. So I started involving that into my interactions with the members within One Year No Beer, and people loved it. People of ages, older ages, who were like giving up on exercise, etc. They're like, nah, time has gone. I'm too old now to kind of exercise. I don't have to. I'm a mom now. And I was like, no, that's not true. Like, you feel better, and like you can still do awesome things and feel better. So I kind of felt myself like a motivator, most of all, of just getting people involved and actually going to races and running them with our members. And and I really got into the whole mindset shift, which is so important whenever you're trying to break habits, or trying to change your life, for the better in any way. I mean, you can't just say, oh, I'd like to do this, and then hope it's going to happen one day. Like, you have to put down some fundamental work. And so that's kind of what I've been doing with One Year No Beer for the past 4 years. And then now, during this pandemic that we're living through right now, I've just been given a little bit more space. Yes, it's harder with the kids at home, but I've been given a bit more space to kind of focus on my own stuff as well. Because I during these years, and especially the last year or so, I've really started kind of honing in on what I really want to do. And that is to support women, particularly mothers who have lived a bit, had their kids, and maybe lost themselves a little bit in that transition. And so my goal was, is to uplift them, and women who just wants a little bit more for themselves. So I've been really diving deep into coaching and, learning from some of the best coaches that there is out there. And just, I feel so fulfilled with, all this energy, and, I'm so keen to kind of empower women, and empower women particularly, because I'm looking to help. Essentially, I'm trying to help reach out to people who are like me, because I'm like, there has to be more people out there like that could do with a bit of guidance, because I would have killed for some guidance years ago, but I didn't know where to look and stuff. So that's kind of, so I've set up my own coaching business now as well, but I'll always be involved with One Year No Beer, seeing that it's kind of part of the family. But and it's such a lovely movement as well, and anyway, to be involved in. So yes, this is my path. I mean, saying it sounds so cheesy, but like, I'm genuinely, my purpose here is to help and to guide and to kind of reach out to people who want a little bit, women more so, that want more for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a really, we're going to dig into like a lot of the stuff that you talked about, because I just find your background, your experience, your outlook, like so interesting and refreshing and really uplifting. So, I think I'm going to reverse our questions. I hope you don't mind. Send these questions in advance. But
you asked me to sum up my life for the past 20 years, and this is blah, what you get, So
no, it's good.
But this is like, everything I've gone through has brought me to this spot right now, and that's how I see it. Like, it's I see it as a massive gift. Everything that I've gone through, like good and bad, and one of the models that I've had in life myself that I kind of did. I must have been wise when I was younger, even though I didn't realize or didn't think I was. But I always felt like you can learn something from every situation and every person that you encounter. Even if it's a terrible one, you can always walk away with a very, very, very good wisdom from it. So that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I think it's that outlook that, to you it's second nature, but to a lot of people, it can be really easy to get caught up in the, oh, life is happening to me, or this bad thing has happened to me, or like really let that get you taken down, instead of looking at, the adversity in life is like, are there some lessons in this? Are there things that I can learn or take away or grow as a result of this? And it can be really hard to do, myself included. Like, I definitely especially over the last couple months, there's been days when I'm like, okay, have your pity party, make a big old thing of pasta, watch your rom-coms, like feel sorry for yourself. You only get today, and then tomorrow you need to pick yourself back up, but it can be hard to, especially when we're all very much in isolation and not around people. So, having people like you and what I do with my productivity stuff, we're all trying to help people with these tools that we've learned ourselves. So one thing I think is super interesting about your background is, you were an international model, and that is a really it's a crazy exciting industry, but a crazy tough industry as well. And I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about your experience there and how it kind of shaped your view of the world, and also how you stayed positive or didn't let it completely just annihilate you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that was my ticket out of Sweden. I was so keen to get out. I mean, when you're younger and when you've grown up in a certain way, you're searching to find, what's right and what you need to do for yourself. And I think we are born with this with survival instinct, and we have these incredible instincts as that we as a child are very in tune to, but somehow as we grow, we're kind of beaten out of it in one way or another, and so we learn to think too much about what's right and what we should do. However, you have this internal guidance that wants to survive, right? And however that plays out, and for me it was I had to get out of where I was living, and I had to get away. And my ticket out was I was scouted by some international agencies from Milano, and they were like, right, we want you to come down. And I was like, that's it. I jumped on a plane and there we go. And I was kind of thrown. I was lucky in a way because I was 20 years old, which is considered very old. And I was told how extremely old I was when I arrived down there. Because a lot of people, I know, right? So, because a lot of the girls down there are like 12, 13, and I was the old lady, 20. I was like the mature lady in the apartment of 12, which I took on that role. I was looking after these little girls. It was hilarious. But I was kind of thrown into this brutal environment where you are just genuinely a piece of meat. And no matter how tasty or lean that piece of meat is, it's never going to be good enough. And so I was kind of thrown into like a shock, because I'd grown up and I'd done a lot of sports. I was really good at sport, really athletic. And I was, played a good level of soccer, football, and, so I had muscles and stuff. When I came down to Italy, they looked at my legs and they're like, what are those? And I was like, well, they're muscles. I play football. And they laughed so hard, these Italian male bosses. Like, oh my God, girls don't play football. Oh my God, it was the most ridiculous thing that they have ever heard. And they were like, well, muscles don't belong on girls, times have changed, but back then it was like there's no place for muscles on girls. And so they told me to lose 5 centimeters, equaling 5 kilos in 1 week, and then kind of sent me off with a list of things that I couldn't eat. And it would have been easier and shorter for them to kind of make the list of what I could eat, which was very little. And so having gone through that, come through like a healthy background where I ate everything, I just worked out and I was fit and healthy, and even in my, I couldn't fathom this whole idea. So I was kind of thrown into this world of like an eating disorder where everyone around you had eating disorders. And so it kind of became the norm, and everyone smoked cigarettes just to kind of not get hungry. And it was so weird. But when you're thrown into that environment, and when this is your ticket out and you're going to give it your all, you give it your all, whatever the cost, right? So, and I was scared of working out. I was scared, to build my muscle. And so, running, but not too fast. Like they give you these ridiculous notions of what you should do. And so I went from like feeling strong and healthy to like crashing down. And then come the shoots of just like not being told that you're good enough. And there's always measurement tape. There's always a measurement tape when you come to the castings and all that stuff. And so you're being told that there's constantly someone better than you. And so this was hard, but I was 20 years old. So I had some, skin on my nose, as you say, but but it was a brutal environment, and you have to be really tough to kind of make it through that. I saw a lot of girls who weren't strong enough. I saw some girls who really struggled and got into a lot of trouble, and I lived with a lot of them. But I had somewhere in my body, I always had my survival compass. It was always kind of pointing me in the right direction, and so I always came out all right. I never got into massive trouble. I never, I came out all right, and I did well. Like the emotional issues that come, the mental issues that come with an eating disorder can be quite how do you call it? It can be quite chaotic, because your mind is always freaking out about nutrition and what you're eating and you shouldn't eat and stuff. And so that kind of starts eating up a lot of your time. Now, I have to say that I wasn't in this cycle for a long time, because I also went home to Sweden, in between, connected with my family and my friends. And I spoke to my friends. I was open to them how I'd been doing. And that really helped. So whenever I went home to Sweden, I was like, hang on a minute, this is not right. So that's kind of where I gathered my strength. And so I kind of pulled myself out of it. However, you're still stuck in this environment where you're just trying to fit, and you can never fit. They asked me to remove ribs just to make my waist smaller, like surgically remove ribs. They wanted me to, and they kept sticking a pen on my mouth, and they go like, look, if you do this, you push like this, your lip beautiful. And I'm like, how is that beautiful? I never did my lips, by the way, but there was always someone prodding on you to be different. But I really tried, and I really applied myself, and I did well, but it was hard kind of fending off the vultures, if you like. So it gave me incredibly tough skin. But at the end of the day, I mean, I got to see the world. I traveled loads. I met incredible people. And so there is a nice side to it. But would I recommend it to people? I'm not really sure. Like because when you're a model, you get a lot of emails or phone calls from people like, oh, I have a beautiful daughter, or I have a friend, a cousin, someone that I know from before, and they want them to stop modeling and stuff. And I kind of want to tell them to run the other way. But, you give advice because, some people did really want to try it. And just to mention, like the Me Too movement, the whole thing that's happened this past couple of years, and everyone's like hashtag like Me Too, and like tag yourself if you've been if this happened to you. And I'm like, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know where to start, right? But back then, it was really like it was just open field for them to kind of be touching you in inappropriate ways. So I'm not saying, I mean, I was very strong to kind of fend people off, but it was the constant accidental hand on your butt or whatever, and accidentally walking in when you're getting dressed and stuff. I mean, that wouldn't happen today. I mean, if it happened, people would get fired left and right, but back then there was nothing to protect you, So you're fairly unprotected, morally in that situation where I was, whereas today, there's awareness. So it gave me
there's awareness, but I think it's so interesting, like hearing that, because for a lot of women, especially like around our age, we have this, I think we could say like most of us have an eating disorder of some sort, because we're obsessed with like, do I need to eat this way to look a certain way, and
mm-hmm.
I need to diet, or I need to lose this much weight, or I need to do this, I need to do that, and it doesn't surprise me one bit when the people that we were looking at in the media, like yourselves, that were being subjected to this crazy kind of like remove your ribs, and then like you come in with beautifully straight hair and they're like, we want to curl your hair. It's like this unrealistic perfection that doesn't exist. It's like no matter how perfect you look, they're going to tell you don't look perfect. They're going to want something different, so when we have that kind of example for the people that we see in the clothes and the media and the this and the that, and knowing behind the scenes what you go through, it's no surprise that the rest of us also feel like we're never going to achieve perfection, but actually it doesn't exist, right?
It doesn't exist.
And the telling you to lose your muscles, like I mean, so we're looking at people that have no muscles, but then we're told we need to work out, and like it's just crazy. I think now there's a bit more awareness with young people about like, you know, body empowerment and that sort of thing, but we still have constant bombardment on Instagram feeds and everything, and we see the edited perfect version of someone. But I like what's going on now with, you know, the pandemic, in terms of we're seeing behind the scenes, you know, we're not able to see like the perfect final retouched thing. Like, we're seeing so much more realness right now, that perfection is kind of changing. And I think when and if this all calms down a bit and we go back to some sort of old types of things that we used to do, brands aren't going to be able to put out these perfectly polished images anymore without us being like, hang on, I know that's not real. I just spent the last 6 months looking at people doing, you know, their newscasting from their bedroom and their kids doing the graphics. Or, you know, one of my favorite clothing companies, all their models are like taking pictures in their homes, and I see their like dirty mirror behind them. I'm like, yes, they're real, you know, they're real people.
Yeah, I think this, you know, people tend to focus on the negatives and what's happened and what's going on, and this is so inconvenient and all. But I like to look at all the positives that's come out of the thing, and these are one of the things. Like, and also like everyone stepping up to it, like celebrities and everyone going like, no, this is me, you know, this is how it is, and it's allowed people to kind of go, you know, actually, I don't mind a bit of gray hair. I don't mind a bit of wrinkles, or you know, people, this is me, and so I'm very hopeful that it's going to allow people to feel a little bit more empowered of being themselves, because there is no doubt about it, like no one else or nothing else can satisfy you. Like, the work has to be done from the inside. I mean, again, one of those cliches that you've heard your whole life, but like, it really doesn't get better than that. Like, you need to be completely happy with who you are and accept who you are entirely right now in order to feel happy. It's nothing external is going to do anything about that. And looking at, you know, the Instagram and all the whatever. See, I'm too old for this. TikTok, is it? But the people on TikTok, and you can alter and edit images and stuff like that's also not real, but people still live by it and think that that's the way it's supposed to be. So the danger is still out there, but at the same time, it's getting better. Like, there's always progress in each direction, and you know, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now for the better. So I have a lot of hope for people.
It's a great time for people, I think, to go inwards. You know, when you say like doing the inner work and stuff, actually, I found it really hard, you know. I mean, you know my story. Like, a couple years ago, I was so depressed. I was literally ordering takeaway and not getting out of bed to eat it because I didn't even have the energy or the motivation to go sit at a table. Like, I just stay in my bed all weekend and watch Netflix, and like, you know, it was a struggle. It was really hard. And one of the things, and you know, to this day, was one of the best things that I ever did for myself was give up alcohol. And I did that by doing a challenge with 1 year no beer. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Firstly, if you can just explain the community and the challenges a little bit, and then I, you know, just want to have a discussion around, you know, these societal views around alcohol or not drinking or whatever, because there's, you know, there's a big piece of work to be done here, and you've been at the front lines of that for 4 years. So tell us a bit more about 1 year no beer and what they do.
Yeah, so the idea that, you know, we need to drink to fit in, and the fact that when you choose to not drink, you're actually making people uncomfortable. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And we've been socially conditioned to believe that we need it, you know, to celebrate and commiserate and you know, any reason. Oh, you're too tired. Oh, the kids are finally gone to bed. I need a drink. You know, you need a drink. Oh, that's my reward and stuff. And it's kind of been that emotional crutch that we've all had for a very long time. And somehow, when the only acceptable reasons for you not to drink was if you were pregnant or if you're on medication, or depends on what medication, you know, they're like, well, what kind of medication? I think you can still drink on that. Like, people find these holes of like, well, why aren't you drinking? Because it makes people kind of crazy. And so what Rue and my husband and his co-founder, Andy, what they came up with, they're like, well, let's create a reason for people not to drink, like a challenge. because people tend to go into like dry January, one of these things, then be like, oh, counting down the days so they can drink. And they're like, let's just change the view. Like it needs some mindset shift somewhere. So they created the challenges. So it's either a 28-day, a 90-day, or 365-day challenge where you sign up, where you commit to not drinking. And during these days, you get daily emails right around kind of like when you get that 5 o'clock at 4 or 5 o'clock when that drink bing comes up, drink level, and so support and guidance every day. You know, at this point of your challenge, you'll be feeling this way. So it's really like that emotional support, but it's also helping you understand that you need to make a mindset shift. You need to set goals. You know, it's not about making a choice to do one thing. You can make the choice. You make the choice over here, and that is the one thing you need to go and do. But then you need, then there's like an obstacle course in between. Like, well, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to actively work on it. And that is, changing your bad habits for good habits. Installing a healthier routine. You're eating better, hydrating, and all that stuff. So One Unit Beer really comes with all of that.
Yeah, so, it's funny. I'm actually in the place. I'm here in Panama. I got trapped here when I came to visit my parents earlier this year, and they've had a crazy lockdown here and no international flights, which they just extended the ban again. So lucky my parents have been like nice enough to let me stay here. But I was here over Christmas a couple years ago. And I was just feeling like, do you know what? Like, I know that I can do something different. I want to feel superhuman again. I remembered when I did like this crazy diet back in LA 10 years earlier, and it included not drinking. So I was like, I just want to stop drinking again. And then 1 year no beer came up. I signed up for the 90-day challenge. And, the not drinking part was easier for me than other people, because I've many times, have done like a cleanse so then I could go and binge again or whatever, like over the last 10 years. And there's a group that goes with this like daily email support. So the daily email support is actually, what got me into aerial silks, which was amazing. It was like, okay, now you should maybe start thinking about exercising. I was like, oh my God, okay. And we're going to talk about Spartan in a minute, but I was in the group and I was seeing
silk as well. Like, right, I'm going to go do silk and hang up and just drop on my head from like 20 meters. That's what I love it. You think I'm crazy.
No, but I nearly killed myself on the first performance as well. Like I landed like that close, I did this huge drop and this close to the mat. And I like told everybody like, that was meant to happen. Like, oops. But I was in the group, and it was like early on, like not drinking. I had no exercise, movement, any practice in my life apart from like getting up and sitting at a computer and working at this point. And then I saw beautiful people like you doing Spartan and doing these races. And I was like, no, like I hate running. I'm not running. So it was like, okay, but I'm not going to let them do this without me. Right. So you guys have your Spartan. I will go do my silks. And then it was amazing to kind of see the transformations happening in the group and the people going through it, because I think the thing that you're not prepared for the most is that when you remove this substance, which this is a stat from you guys, 86% of the American adult population drink alcohol. 86%, right? So if you decide that you're going to stop drinking, then you're going against like the massive majority of the population. So when you remove this substance that like it numbs all the good stuff, but it also numbs the bad stuff. And I think what people aren't prepared for is the outpouring of emotions and the realization that they were probably like drinking to numb out something that wasn't good in their life. The job, the relationship, the not taking care of themselves, I need to, sell everything, burn it all to the ground and leave London and join the circus, so like whatever your thing. But those emotions, and I think we've gotten to a point as a society where it's like you're supposed to always like be okay, so like this idea of like not being okay is what causes us to then, I think, get a lack of motivation, because you're just internalizing these things that actually should be coming out. So for me, there was a lot of situations that I was in that I wasn't happy in. And it was like, I was giving myself permission to just be not motivated and just feel sorry for myself instead of removing this thing. And it's like, okay, now I have to deal with all these emotions, right? So I'm really interested in the exercise part of things because it's a real sticking point for a lot of people, myself included. So tell us about Spartan, what it is, and like what made you decide to do it, and also like your background with exercise. We know you didn't, you weren't exercising with the modeling thing, so I think this whole story is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so I was really athletic as a kid, like I said, and did loads of sports, and then doing the modeling. I would go to gyms in Italy, but then the men were genuinely, I mean, I'm not joking. People say, "Oh, boo-hoo, you got compliments." No, men were genuinely creepy in Italy. Like they go to gyms to hit on women, especially in Milano, where they know a lot of models go. Like they are so creepy. So I actually stopped going to the gym. I just couldn't bear anymore because they wouldn't leave you alone, and they would just stand behind you, whatever machine you're on, and just stare at you and like talk in Italian, thinking that, in the beginning I didn't understand, but then I started speaking Italian and I was like, I just couldn't deal with it. So I started running a bit outside, but I wasn't really into it. And I hate running. I hated running so much until recently. I hated running. And so, yeah, I went through and just not really feeling healthy and mentally not well from not training. So after I had my two kids, I was like, right, I'd always been tall and lean anyway, because I'm 5'11", 180 tall. I've got my dad's metabolism. So, I mean, I can eat pretty much anything, but the alcohol would make me put on weight. That was the only problem when I was modeling, was I would put on weight. I would get quite puffy because I was using alcohol as a coping mechanism. And so after I had my first daughter, I started training, and I hired a personal trainer because I didn't know how to lose weight. I'd never really had to lose weight other than that psychotic way that they suggested in Italy. I was like, I want to in a healthy way do this. So I hired a personal trainer, and he was incredible, and he helped me figure out the diet bit, and he really started helping me kind of shift weight and getting to my target. However, I kept going kind of back, and I wasn't progressing as well as I could. And I realized that it was the alcohol. And it doesn't matter how much you train and how much you work out and how much you try to eat lean. If you drink alcohol, that's going to have an effect on you. The thing is, there's a lot of people out there who are like athletes who have come into, let's say, 1 year or beer, who are like ultra runners and stuff, and they wouldn't work out, they wouldn't drink, and then they'd had a massive race, and then they would like binge drink after and feel awful. So it's not that athletes don't drink, but for me, it was fundamentally altering my mental state. Like it was doing so much damage to me. I wasn't myself when I was drinking, and I could have angry outbursts, and my poor husband would get the brunt of that. So I was really like, okay, I'm not losing weight. I'm not gaining, getting where I want to be because of my drinking. So I started cutting down on my drinking. And then Rue started this 1 year no beer during my second pregnancy. And it was great. But then after 9 months pregnancy, I was like, woohoo, can't wait to have a drink. And I was like, well, you're doing this 1 year no beer thing. I'm fine. I'm all right. Good luck. I've not drank for 9 months. And I kind of, went back to drinking a bit. But I felt awful again. And I had a lot of guilt feeling from not being a great mom during my first pregnancy and after my first daughter was born, because I would be hungover and I wouldn't be like that present with her. I'd be annoyed. It would just feel like a chore sometimes hanging out with my daughter. Like those are not nice days as a parent. Like we have enough things to feel guilty about, because as a parent, that's what we do. But there was an element of shame, and I'm like, I don't need that in my life, So I kind of started listening to everything that was going on with 1 year no beer, and I was getting really inspired by the feed that was coming in from members saying, you've changed my life, oh my gosh, all this. So I was like, maybe there's something in this for me. So I also started applying. I did 1 year no beer myself, and I started applying all the things, with the mindset. That's how I got into it, and I started kind of doing it. So I mean, you learn by doing, right? And that's really, I felt like I was learning with the members, from this program, and from my husband, obviously the conversations we were having on the outside at home. And I was just feeling that, alcohol is just doing this much damage to me. And it's not worth it. You know, those days of me going, oh God, the kids are in bed, I need a drink. That moment of numbness and feeling great, you know, the day after is awful. Like, so why keep doing that for yourself, you know? So I was like, I need to do something healthier. So I was just really getting into my training. I told my trainer, I want to lift heavier. I want to get really freaking strong. I want to be able to do pull-ups and all. And he's like, you know, he kept training. And then he said, hey, there's this race I think you would really like. I'm like, oh, what's that? He's always called Spartan Race. And I'm like, yeah, I said, like one of these Tough Mudders, tried one of those, and it was pretty cool. But he's like, no, this is apparently tougher. And I'm like, ooh, I like, you know, I like the sound of that. So I signed up to do the Spartan Race with Rue, my husband, who came along kicking and screaming. And we ran this race, which was a Spartan Beast. I didn't know the difference. There was like 3 levels. I had no idea then what that meant. So it's like a sprint super beast. It was this beast. And I'm like, let's just do it. It took us 5.5 hours. It was brutal. I mean, it felt like we've been dragged through. I mean, we were dragged through bog, but it was insane. But I came over that finish line. They put that medal around my neck, and I was like, like, it felt like so amazing. Like, when are we doing this again? And I looked at my husband. He's like, you're on your own. But then he kept coming with me to these races. I felt so empowered. And I think the feeling that you get from doing one of those things is, it's physically tough, but you're doing it and you're pushing through and you're doing it for yourself. And it was just so uplifting. And I just felt so freaking proud of myself after having done one of those races. And I was like, I love that. And I'm like, it was almost like this light from like my childhood came up, or how I used to feel after like a soccer game, or, you know, like a horse competition, whatever. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I need more of this, you know? So it can feel like quite addictive in a way, but I found like a goal. So I started running them more with my husband. He still came along, bless him. I call him the reluctant Spartan, but he would come along. I would say it really changed me and my mental state. Like, I went from a very dark place to a very good place. Now, I think that both removing alcohol and doing Spartan had both, you know, had the combination, because it's exercise at the end of the day. They're not reinventing the wheel. It's a great community, which I really like fell in love with. And, you know, the whole tribe thing that they do in Spartan, which is also, you know, one year in a beer, like, it's all about community and togetherness. And I love that. So that's how I kind of started going with those. And then we did kind of 2 years of Spartan. So I started, you know, doing broadcast into One Year No Beer, getting people inspired. You were one of those who were not inspired. You're like, I'm not doing that.
I was like, you guys are awesome. Like, not for me.
I totally get that. I totally get that. No, it's not for everyone. Like, not everyone likes it running and getting muddy, and like, so it's not going to be for everyone.
The thing is that, like, the getting muddy and the assault course bit, like, if they had one where you didn't have to run, like, I'd be 100% all over it. But it's the running. Like, I've always had a massive resistance to running, which probably means I should run. But like, running for me has been like, no. But I think you put down 2 really important things there. Like, you know, when we're not in a good state of mind, alcohol is a depressant, and, like, you know, all the other things that we know are inherently not good about it. And, you know, especially in the US, there's this assumption that if you decide to stop drinking, that you're an alcoholic with like a real problem. And I always kind of giggle at it, because I'm like, show me a person that drinks that doesn't get a hangover, that doesn't then act differently like the next day as a result of it, that doesn't feel like, hey, you know, I love doing this thing, but if I removed it, like, whatever. And
right.
You know,
so can I just say that it doesn't have, like, you don't have to have a problem with alcohol for it to be causing problems for you.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is health-wise, mentally, work-wise. Like, it affects your relationship, it affects everything. Your judgment with choosing a partner, you know, your ability to perform at work. You know, some people are laser sharp. Some people drink and don't have a problem. They perform at top level. But the majority of people just kind of coasting along, just getting by and settling. And there's nothing, I mean, if you want to get, like, there's no plan B. There's plan A. This is our life. We have one life, plan A, you know, there's no plan B in the sense of like, we don't get another chance. Like, are you going to coast and kind of just get through your life when you haven't even pushed and tried, if you can feel amazing, and removing the alcohol, that's the first step. Like, if you just remove that and give yourself a break, I'm not saying forever. And this is what One Year Beer does so well. It's because we're not saying don't drink ever again. We're saying take a break and see what difference it makes to you personally. And that's me. Because the thing is, I've never said I wasn't going to drink again. I took a break and I realized that it does no good to me. I don't really drink because of my training anyway now, but I could choose to drink. Like the other day, we're having just our next door neighbors having a social distancing a barbecue outside. And the look I poured a glass of Prosecco. I didn't even drink that whole glass all night, but I sat and held that next to me the whole night. I didn't really want it, but it was there. And I had a sip, and it's not a big deal. Nothing happened. And that's the whole thing. Like, but I'm at the point where I don't think about alcohol. It doesn't bother. I said, I'm not going to drink, but I could if I want to, because it has no hold over me. Because I also know it's a slippery slope. If I go out and just start drinking again, it's going to have a negative impact to, my mental health. And that's going to kind of throw me off guard. And so for me, I don't see any purpose in it. And so that's what we're trying with the One Year Beer people, for them to make their own decision. Because you tell someone, you can't drink anymore, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm never doing that. I'm like, okay, how about this? How about you have a break and see how you feel? That opens a different conversation, because then people are actually getting curious and be like, hang on, I'm challenging myself. Let me see. And then it's up to them to see if they see any difference. And that's what they do. They take the challenge, One Year Beer challenge, and they go, I can't believe the difference I'm feeling. And how my mind opens up.
Most of the people in the group, they always like re-up. It's like, okay, I went for 30, but actually I'm going to go for 90 now. Or, in my case, I always knew I was going to do a year. I found it easier to tell the people around me, because I was living in London at the time, which it's very heavy drinking culture. So if I started with like, oh, I'm doing dry Jan, and nobody bats an eyelid at that, because everybody does dry Jan, like, let's detox for January so we can binge the rest of the year. And also like make up for all the binging we did in Christmas. And then, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to do 90 days. And then after 90 days, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go a year. And then friends started being like, you're not going to drink again, are you? I'm like, no. It's just so, but what I was going to say was, the removing the alcohol, then all these emotions start to come out, and then also the boredom, right? So like, if you don't fill your time with drinking, I think a lot of people really struggle with like, what do I do with my time? What do I enjoy? And the boredom and the loneliness, if you're single or living on your own, can be overwhelming. So having something like a Spartan, or for me, it was Aerial Silks, and hearing you describe getting ready for that race was kind of the same thing for my first performance. Like, I had injuries, I had self-doubt, I persisted. I had a trainer that was like ex Cirque du Soleil performer, like pushed me really hard. And it was just like, and I nearly didn't do it. And I just kept going. And then when I did it, that moment of like all that hard work, all of that, like not believing in myself, and then just finally getting to my own version of a finish line, and the feeling and like the endorphins and the dopamine and all of that will never ever replace, like it's just on another level. So, we talk about exercise and not drinking for mental health, but a lot of people struggle with how do I get started? Or, I'm worried I'll lose friends, or people will think I'm boring, or I'm really worried about like what I'll be like in social situations. So there's all these fears that come up before we even get there, because we've been conditioned, much like we have with images and what we need to look like our whole lives in terms of, drinking. So I guess that's kind of a two-part question for this next one. So we talked about why challenges are helping people, and I want to, what happens to people when they actually do these challenges? Like, what are you seeing in terms of life changes from these people?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people end up ending their relationships. A lot of people ending marriages. A lot of people have their partners leave them because they can't, they're like, I don't know who you are, they want that party drinking person back, and they're gone forever, and they're okay with it. I mean, a lot of people are very sad. It's a very sad to end a marriage or end a relationship, but in the long run, they're staying true to themselves, and they're going to find someone that they're actually happy with. And that's the beauty of it. It will be, it can, like you say, it's a tough transition. Like, there's not only going to be positive and, fluffy rainbows and unicorns coming out of changing your life, but in the long run, you're doing something amazing because you're doing it for yourself. And so we have people who have just quit their job, their dead-end job, or they quit their job, they've told their boss to beat it, and they've set up their own business, thriving businesses. We've had some incredible people set up businesses and doing really well, and other people have who were successful at their job before have, especially in finance or bigger ones, like they ended up like tripling, quadrupling like their sales or whatever. So their productivity goes up massively. And so also, we have people from all corners of the world, all corners of the world. And so it's just so rewarding to see. Well, rewarding, I mean, it's not rewarding, but it's just watching people doing it. Like, we're there to guide them. They're doing an amazing job. They're going through the transition themselves, but just watching the community being so supportive of members who are struggling or stuff, it's incredible. People might write into the private group that they have, I'm struggling right now, and people are just showering that person with encouraging words, and we've been there, we know what's going on, and it's just all built around positivity. And so the people are coming out of it feeling some people say they feel reborn, and some people just feel rejuvenated, like second lease of life, and just having a chance again. But like you say, when you remove it, there's a lot of the bad stuff that you have been trying to hide with alcohol is going to come up to the surface, and you're going to have to deal with it. But that's not a bad thing. That's something that you have to do, because no matter how you try and apply yourself for certain things, you're never going to please someone else, because that person is wanting you to be a certain way for their own personal selfish needs, for their own ego that is just suffering. And so they're putting that on you. And same thing with media and stuff. It doesn't matter. Like, you're never going to feel fulfilled, even if you do that amazing 5-day detox, which is going to make you look like Jennifer Aniston or whatever and stuff. Like, you're never going to look like Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston looks like I'm Jennifer Aniston. Like, there's no way else. You can do the best that you can, the best of your ability to feel and look amazing. But unless you accept the person that you are here and now today, and accept it, whether you're overweight or you got bad skin or bad hair, or you're not doing well at work, whatever, you need to accept that and go, this is a situation right now, and I've tried my best, but like, then you can start the work internally. But nothing externally is going to do anything about that at all. None.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've lost 44 pounds, 20 kilos since I started the 1 year no beer challenge. And the before and after pictures always get a lot of attention in there. And there's a lot of women that join because they want to lose weight, and then they realize on the journey it's so much more than that. Actually, like, where is that need coming from? Feeling like I need to alter my body, and everybody's always like, what diet did you do? And I'm like, I didn't diet at all, right? Like, I ate what I felt like, and because I was doing exercise, and because I was like doing, I went to a therapist. I was like, I need to deal with what's going on in my head as well, like seeking outside help, seeking community, not trying to be an island and do everything by yourself. These are tools that you can use, because it's not an easy journey, but oh my God, is it a rewarding one? And I've told you, like, I feel like I look on the outside how I feel on the inside now, because I've had to do a lot of crying, a lot of inner work. I'm still going through it. Like, the spiritual lessons just keep coming, but the beauty of that is, like, because you're not numb anymore, and because you're like open to this, like, the really exciting experiences actually feel exciting. Because when we live in that point of our life where it's like, okay, 5 o'clock, time to numb it, you're also kind of numbing all the good stuff as well. Because, you know, for me at least, it was like the next day, I'd usually like probably have a couple too many right before something that was like a really big deal. And it was almost like self-sabotage that I couldn't really fully enjoy that day because I was just like, you know, the lingering headache or whatever. But yeah, it's super exciting. And I love this.
The work never ends. You kept saying, oh, I'm not perfect. The work never stops. Like, I have shit days. Fuck me. Like, some days I wake up and I go to bed and I'm like, oh, feels amazing. And I wake up and I'm like, you know, Gollum, like, you know, looking at myself in the mirror. But we have those days. But you know what you do? You accept those days and you just go like, it's one of these days. And I just call them like the kind of the grind days. You need to get through today. Just get through today. Just be kind to yourself. You know, whatever you're feeling, it's going to pass, because we all get those days. I mean, especially women with hormones, like we have no control at times, right? And we forget that because we're told we need to be like this or this or this. You know, it says who. Like, so if we have one of these days, you know, you just accept it and be like, all right, just get on with it. But also, we're always learning. Like, that's, I just lift each rock, try and find something else that you can learn or that you can improve on, and never settle. And that's the thing. I think when I was getting fed the Spartan thing, I loved it. And then I turned 40 last year. And the year before that, I was like, you know, I was really enjoying the Spartans, but I've seen, you know, the people doing some crazy, tougher races of levels of Spartan. I'm like, I want to do that. And again, Rue's like, you're crazy. And, you know, that's like crazy people. Like, that's a different level, Jen. I'm like, I know, I'm kind of curious. And so as I was about to turn 40, I was like, and people like, oh, you're 40 now. Should you be doing these races and all this stuff? And I was getting really fed up with people. I know, right? And I was doing CrossFit and I was really getting into CrossFit and I felt strong and I felt good. And I felt like, wow, I just love this. And then I kept getting emails from people saying, you know, you're so inspirational. You know, you're really encouraging me to go out and move and get going. You know, I'm a mom, this and that. And I saw a pattern with moms reaching out to me saying, you know, you're really inspirational, you know, because I would do lives on my Instagram or One Year Beer Instagram or Facebook. So they would get in touch. And I was like, that felt good. And I didn't feel a pressure or anything, but that kind of made me go, you know what? Why are people so surprised that moms can do awesome things, especially if we're getting close to 40? So I made a decision that I was going to compete in Spartan and run Spartan racing competitively. And not only that, but I was going to try and compete in the Ultra World Championship, which was at the end of last year, and which you have to qualify for. Pretty gruesome kind of process to really get there. And there I was, like a mom who was like working out and, you know, kind of got back into getting fit and stuff and really enjoyed it. But here I was going to go and compete, you know, with some of the top athletes. There it was. And I kind of set myself that goal, and people like, but why? I'm like, but why not? Like, why not? Like, I feel like I really want to go do it. I feel like that would be awesome for me. I'm doing this for no one else. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not doing it. Yeah, I'm trying to impress my kids. Like, I want my kids, I have 2 little girls, and I want them to look at me like, yeah, my mom is badass. You know, that's generally the only 2 people I want to impress. But for most of all, I wanted to do this for me. It was kind of, I was getting a lot of clarity, and I'm like, what did I used to do? And you start reevaluating, changing your mindset shift, doing the mindset shifts and all that. And I realized that what did I love? Like, what am I not doing now that I used to love before I got into like this madness of growing up and leaving, you know, living in the modeling world and all that? I'm like, I did sports and I was great at it and I loved it. So I was like, so I kind of went, I'm going to keep doing that. So, you know, I could, finally at the age of 40, I could call myself an athlete finally. And it was like, I was kind of going back to my youth and like, felt like, because I often would feel like I'd missed my chance, you know, missed my chance to do something cool. I missed out and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, why am I even feeling that? Like, I can do all those things now. And that's kind of how I just fell into that banana peel. And next thing you know, I started competing, running Spartan. So Spartan racing is like an obstacle course with obstacles and certain distances from like shorter to longer. And then there's the ultra, which is like mega long. And so the Ultra World Championship was a 24-hour race. I was like, So I found myself a coach, like a trainer, to help me out because I didn't know where to start. Because even though I was running Spartans for fun, I hated running still. I would just run, just get through it. I liked the challenge of it. So I got myself a coach, and then I spent all of last year just really focusing on one solid goal, and that was to qualify and run the Ultra World Championship, which was held in Sweden, coincidentally. And I did, and that was my whole goal. So, I set that one goal, and a lot of beautiful other things happened along the way from setting that one goal. It was a beautiful year. And so that just shows like you can do anything. We are truly capable. All of us are truly capable of incredible things. If we set our mind to it, we can do anything. And people are like, well, you're an athlete. No, I was dabbling with sports, but I made myself into an athlete just this past year. Just put my fucking mind into it.
I think awesome. it's finding stuff that you're passionate about, right? And like a lot of people will be like, oh, I could never do a Spartan. I'm one of them. I could do it. I choose not to. It's something that it's finding the thing that like fires you up. And for you and so many people, it fires you up so much. For other people, like we lose sight of that thing that makes us passionate. Like you were talking about when you were a child, you were an athlete, and that almost got taken away from you in a sense. And being able to like claim that back for your own is beautiful. And that's the thing, when we're adults, we get so in our head about, these expectations that we put on ourselves or that we think other people have of us, or these silent critics, that are dictating the way that we're supposed to be living our life. But, this is why I love this idea of unrestricted. It's like, fuck all that. I can make my own decisions, do what I want, and do what makes me passionate. And it doesn't make me any less of a person. If anything, it makes me a better person. I'm more giving and loving and present in my relationships and taking care of myself more because I'm giving myself that gift of, I don't care what you all think, I'm doing this for me. And I love that. And like, holy crap, like the ultra world marathon in Sweden after the age of 40 and 2 children, like, girl, you are a superhuman.
Yeah, well, it was just like that was my one goal. I set that, and like I'm gonna freaking do it, and I had it. I did well. I actually won the UK Ireland series for my age group in the UK. Obviously in the UK, and then I ended up qualifying for the standard world championship, which is in Tahoe, and that wasn't planned. It kind of just happened, and that was happening 2 weeks after my qualification for the ultra, and so it was getting a bit too much. But I kind of felt like I have to go, so I spoke to my husband. I'm like, can we make it work? Because obviously I was going to go my own because the kids are little, and so I was like, we can make this work. He's like, we can make it work. You want to do this? I'm like, I feel like I have to go because I'm not sure I would go next year. I don't know. I have this feeling I have to go now. Like this is the year. So I kind of did all that. So I ran 2 world championships, in fact, last year, and I actually had a freak accident, non-sport related. There was a pool and a blow-up unicorn that I slipped on, and I actually twisted my knee to about a couple of weeks before my ultra qualification. The qualification was 34 miles and 60 obstacles. It took me 10 hours, 50 minutes, I think. But so these are brutal races, right? And so, and by obstacles, there's like climbing up ropes, carrying heavy, spear throw. I mean, it's crazy. So you need to have a good body. And so I've been looking after my body all year, and I, really focusing on really taking care and not getting injured. And I didn't. But then I went to this wedding, and I didn't drink because everyone else was drinking. I was the only one that got injured. So I don't know what that tells you. But so I twisted my knee, and it was problematic. But I wasn't going to let that get in the way. I wasn't taking painkillers for it. I was genuinely just my head made that not a problem, right? So that also shows what your body and what you can do with your mind if you're really into it. Like I was not having a problem with my knees. It wasn't bothering me when I ran at all. But I started getting problems in my hip and like in my glutes because my body was compensating, but my knee didn't hurt. So I was like, oh my gosh, like how powerful are we? We don't realize what an incredible engine and what an incredible motor we have up here that can do these things if we apply it. Like, we're so oblivious of what we are actually capable of. And that really fueled me, like, more of what I was adding into One Year No Beer, but it also really ignited this will to do more for myself and more myself independently for my own business. And like, I was like, I want to help other moms who are just, wanting to do more for themselves, and like finding their passion, finding their power, and in their independence, and do it. Because you can still be an awesome mom and an awesome wife. You can be or a partner, and you can still be an awesome, career woman and be happy for yourself. It's possible. Like, you can have it all. What you need to do is figure out, what does all mean to you? Like, when they say, oh, you can have it all. Okay, but what does all mean to you? Then let's get that, that's what you can do, because that's essentially, I'm just going through the process for others. That's what I do for others, what I did for myself, and with the help of incredible coaches and mentors who've been teaching me and helping me all these incredible ways. I'm so empowered about empowered women. And fuck the norm, excuse my French. Screw it. Like, who
All
says
good.
Sorry for swearing.
No, don't apologize. I was just worried, like, a couple episodes that YouTube might take us down, and they didn't. So, that's part of Unrestricted, is like, speak your mind.
Okay.
We talked about this, and I think it's really interesting, particularly like given the pandemic right now, is like, moms are taking a lot of the burden, right? And it's the emotional labor that they're just like taking it on themselves. And I speak to my friends that are moms, and I'm like, are we back in the 1950s? What the hell is going on? And I'm not a mom, so like, we talked about this. It's not coming from a place of being like, you should be doing this, because I hate when people tell me I should be doing something. But what's resonating with me is a problem that women have in most areas of their life, which is setting boundaries, right? Like, in the workplace, we end up staying late or taking on extra work or doing XYZ because we haven't established boundaries. And as women, we feel like, these invisible critics, or the potential that we're going to be viewed as like a woman or a mom in the workplace or whatever. So we end up like obliterating our own boundaries because of these things that we think in our heads, or haven't gotten to the point where we establish boundaries in our relationships as well. And you're Swedish, so it's a little bit different where you come from, but like, I just love for you to tell us a bit about, how you think that moms can carve out me time while being moms, while, having it now homeschool and work from home and like all this stuff. Like, how are you managing this? It sounds crazy.
It is a juggle for sure. Like, the pandemic really like threw us all into this hamster wheel, like, all in one go. It was quite hard in the beginning, but you kind of get around to it, and you need to really set boundaries. And I think that's why I think the pandemic has been good for a lot of people. Like, people getting more aware of their surroundings, and that there needs to be boundaries. And I think as women and as moms and women in general, we have this need of like helping and assisting and wanting to be, we care for people. I mean, everyone's different, but like in general, like, we have a caring nature, and we like to give, and that's what we did. But so I think that has been taken advantage of for so many years, like asking people like, can you just stay a bit extra? Yeah, sure. I'd love to help out. We're just keen to help. But I think people who don't set boundaries for the small things are going to get screwed over with the bigger things, like parenting. So for me, when I met Rue, I mean, I knew that he, like, I didn't plan my life like, oh, I can't wait to marry and have kids. Like, that wasn't in my chart. That kind of just happened and came with it. Would be nice that one day, maybe. But by choosing my husband, I knew I was choosing a good partner, but I also set certain expectations on him. And in the beginning, that was quite hard. Like, he's like, oh, you know, I won't accept you set a limitation. I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but this is how I feel about certain things. And so it's not a threat, but like, this will affect me. And we were very transparent and, you know, very verbal what was okay, and set boundaries in our relationship quite early on. And that's something that you really need to do, because if you don't set boundaries, like, that's the thing when these people say, oh, when we got married, she became a completely different woman. She turned into this crazy person who wants me to do this and that. If you're not completely honest when you meet someone where your boundaries are, like, it's not fair that you're going to go and get married and then all of a sudden start setting the boundaries, like, because that's when you will get this whole thing of like, well, hang on a minute, you're a different person, like, and then they're like, oh, this didn't work out. So if you don't completely aligned with who you are and you know, honest about what you want and what your boundaries are, there will be trouble further down the lane. So we were very open about that. And also, me being Swedish, Rue would make comments like, you know, compared to all other men, you know, I do so much for this and that, and compared. I'm like, you are not like other men. Like, I chose you, and I chose you for a reason. Like, I'm Swedish. I grew up with you know, equality for like it's existed in Sweden since, well, way before I was born. Like, it's a high up there, right? And so
my favorite thing about going to Sweden, like I told you this yesterday, but I'm just going to interject this because I love it so much. It's like, there are hot dads everywhere with, like, you know, the babies strapped to their front. These like hot Swedish men like walking around, and they get the same amount of leave off as women do. I think it's like 6 months or a year each. Quite a bit of time.
Oh, whatever the woman takes, they get.
Yeah. So and it's like, you can be up to a year off. So these dads are taking a year off their career. And, you know, all the restrooms or bathrooms or loos, whatever you call them, wherever you are in the world, are all unisex. But my favorite thing is watching TV, because the washing up powder commercials, or like, you know, the laundry detergent commercials, there are some guy with a man bun doing the laundry. And I'm just like, the first time I saw it, I was like, I have never in my life seen a man doing laundry on TV for a commercial about laundry detergent, you know? Like, maybe there might be like a guy somewhere in the background, but like him being like the star laundry doer, it's like, it's Sweden, man. I love it. I love it.
No, I mean, and it's nothing like we don't like, it's like, it's a gimmick to the rest of the world. They're like, no, like, why is that a gimmick? Like, that's the way it is. Like, we help each other out. So I think Rue, I mean, he comes from a like traditional Scottish family, you know, but where like mom worked really hard and did everything for everyone and stuff. I'm like, that you didn't marry mom. Like, this is me. Like, I'm not doing, like, I am very helpful. I do so much. I'm the person that does DIY in the house. Like, I help out with everything. I don't have any expectations from my husband other than that he does his bit, you know, and that I don't get stuck with stuff. And one earlier on with our girls, you know, he made this comment once, and he's like, well, you know, is it, you know, I was like, I need a bit more help, you know, just a bit more with the house, something balanced, you know, and he went, oh, well, you know, I took the girls. It wasn't that helpful. I'm like, no, taking the girls is your job. Like, they're your kids too. Like, you're not doing me a favor, but it's nice to get the space for sure. But that's not part of, like, that's called being a parent, you know? And so, and, you know, but when he would say, you know, but I do more than other men, and he does, but that's why I didn't choose other men, because I have expectations, and he meets them. Like, we've always been open with you know, what we expect of each other and boundaries and etc. So and he's cool with that, you know, but a lot of people aren't. And the thing is, if you're a mom who are like stuck with doing everything, and the husband expects you to do everything, and even if you're a stay-at-home mom, like some people say, well, if you're stay-at-home mom, you need to do this and this. Yes, fair enough, but the dad is still the dad. Like, you know, the dad still needs to do his bit with the kids, like homework and bits and bobs. You need to get involved. Like, you can't just expect your wife to do all of that. Like, that's not really fair. Like, the wife is already doing, you know, stuff around the house and taking care of most things with the kids, but helping out with kids once or twice every once in a while doesn't really cut it. So, but that's kind of seems to be the norm for like some relationships. And this is not judgment in any way, but I've seen it with my own friends, because they'd be like, oh, Rue, he's so involved and he helps out so much. And I'm like, yeah, he's amazing. I mean, he's like the best dad ever. And he really is. And he loves it too. Like, he doesn't see it as a chore, because it shouldn't be a chore. Is it always easy? No. Can your kids be dicks? Yes, they can. I mean, that's just the way it is with kids. But he pulls his weight, which he's supposed to. So if you're a mom who feel like, well, hang on a minute, I feel a little bit like I'm being taken advantage of because I'm doing everything and just the kids, then how about asking and like setting boundaries, and not asking like, hey, could you just, there needs to be a conversation where you go, hey, listen, I'd appreciate if you just can do a little bit more with the kids, blah, blah. You just need to set those boundaries. If you sit and have this mental rule book of what you think and think should be doing, and then you can write up mentally all these things that your husband is doing bad because he's not helping out. If you haven't actually communicated that to him, how is he supposed to know? And that's what yeah.
Like the communication aspect of boundaries, and this is where, because I talk a lot about boundaries in working scenarios and like personal productivity, and how boundaries can be really good for increasing your own productivity at work, or if you work at home or whatever. But a lot of people don't establish boundaries or don't know where those boundaries are, and even if they do, we intuitively kind of know. But a lot of us let it get to the point where it like explodes when our boundaries just keep getting crossed, instead of trying to have that conversation, even if it's awkward at first or whatever, as you learn to like communicate, like this is where my line is. And you can, like in a work scenario, a good example is my friend works in the movie industry, and her boss was trying to get her to work late and on the weekends. Her boss was also a female. And, the director, all the men on the set were not working in the evenings or the weekends for free, by the way. They weren't getting overtime pay for doing any of this. And I pointed that out to her. I was like, are the men doing this? Are they taking calls when they're at dinner? Are they working on evenings, weekends? And she's like, no. And I was like, well, this is the beginning of a new like job. If you don't draw this line now, they're just going to keep taking advantage. And she had a conversation with the woman that was her boss about it, and put it in that like, hey, do you see the men doing this? Like, why do you feel the need to do this? And she was like, oh my God, so sometimes it's rather than I'm not taking your calls after hours, especially like as women, it's like, hey, where's the driving force behind wanting to work for free on evenings and weekends and not take care of yourself? Like, do you see the other men around us doing this? Like, why are we feeling compelled to do this? And it ended up being a really bonding experience for them, So sometimes just trying to communicate and being a little bit like raw and honest instead of like trying to do it a certain way. I think like just really being honest with like, why am I getting upset about this? Normally with boundaries, we're upset with ourselves that we haven't like communicated it, and also that we're not maintaining it. So the other thing that we often end up doing is like somebody will push to see if our boundary is actually there, and we'll just give in. And then they learn that our boundaries aren't real, So
it's never too late.
Like there's probably
it's never too late to set boundaries. If you feel like, oh, it's too late now, I'm like, no, it's not. Who says it's too late? Like, ask your husband, like, hey, could you just help out a bit more with the kid? Yeah, sure. What do you need? Like, it'd be great if you could just do like a pickup, or like, what day would work for you? Oh, Tuesday could work. Awesome. Okay, you're gonna do pickup on Tuesdays. And then you come up and go, and this is what I do with some of my clients. It's like, how about you ask? Or how about you say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Like, not one of those like, I feel like, you need to generally just like, hey, so this is what I'm feeling. This is what I could do with some help with. And they ask, or they communicate, and they come back going, that went really well. I'm like, because we're so fearful of asking for things. I'm like, but why? So if you feel like, the thing is, we've also along the path of becoming adults and being busy life and moms and all that, we think for our answers. So like we think, okay, I think this is the right thing to do. I think, what do you feel is the right thing to do, right? This doesn't have to be a big question for like something fundamental. It can be small small things. Like, how many times have you had like two choices to make? Well, you had one choice to make, you had two options, and you feel like you should do, like, it feels like you should go with that, but you end up going for the other one, and that turns out to be the wrong choice. But you went with the thinking thing rather than the feeling thing, and you're proved wrong. And you're like, I should have gone with that. I knew it. Yes, you knew it, but you decided to not go with the way you were feeling. You went with the way you were thinking, and that is what controls us these days. So if we could just learn to kind of really feel more and just like what feels right, connect with like we are clever little beings. Like, we don't give ourselves enough credit because we're so wrapped up with everything else. But if you just feel like, no, this doesn't feel right, like, go with that. Like, if something is telling you no, and if you feel like, no, I feel like I could ask for something, then go and ask for that, So still, there's set boundaries. Like, there's no such thing as.
I think the key is like not expecting that people are clairvoyant, and also not leaving it until you have a reaction. I'm speaking from experience, right? Because like I was terrible about this before, because I would just take on more, thinking that it would help me be successful or achieve whatever societal view of success I was chasing at that time. And then it would get to the point where it was just, I was crossed so many times, then I'd like blow up or have a reaction, or get upset about tiny things when there was actually like a much bigger thing down deep. And I think you're right. We all feel this. We have been conditioned now as a society to tune out any sort of intuition or knowing from ourselves. So, when those feelings start happening, and this is why removing alcohol can be an amazing thing, because as soon as those intuition feelings start coming up, when you have a drink to suppress it, then you end up staying in that perpetual state of like unhappiness and like, this person's crossing my boundaries, but you can't really like tune into why. So when I start feeling these things now, and I feel that reaction, and we all know when we act a certain way, or the passive aggressive side comes out, or the anger comes out, it's like going and sitting somewhere and taking a couple breaths and asking yourself, like, where is this coming from? Or like moving your body a bit, or put on a really loud metal music track and thrash around, like use this system that we have, and then communicate.
Yes. Yeah. Communication isn't easy, because communicating with another person, like, that person has got shit going on, you've got shit going on, and that can go extremely badly. And you can miscommunicate in so many ways, because that person's thinking about something completely different, etc. So unless we take that break and just breathe or whatever, and walk away from situations, especially people who feel like they're arguing and all, or they can't get into conversation. That's the thing. You can never going back to like parenting, or as a mom, like, you can never blindside your husband with stuff and be like, especially like, well, anger never gets you anywhere. Like, and if you come at it like with annoyance or like, anger in any way, that's going to get you zero miles on your journey. Absolutely zero. If you are able to communicate in a calm way and be like, hey, so this is how I'm feeling, I could do with a little bit of help. But if you start accusing people, I mean, how do you feel when someone comes in and start accusing you? Like, the first thing you do is, but like, I still feel like when someone comes and like they throw negative stuff at you, does it get to you momentarily? Like, I'm still learning, but like, you need to filter it and go like, okay, you just accept, like, they've got stuff going on, they've got stuff going on. It's not me, it's them. Just know that, and then kind of filter through and be like, okay, and then assess it. Like, if you go and throw something at your husband that you want, you need more, want more, that's not going to go. You need to, like, what is it that you need, first of all? Don't just throw, wow, I could do help with this. Like, what genuinely is it that you would like? Is it a couple of days help with pickup? Is it a couple of days with, dropping off at school or making breakfast? You can go for a run. What is it that you need? Like, genuinely sit down and write down what it is that you need, and then communicate that. That's how you approach someone. That goes go for your boss. Like, if you need something, if you have something that you want or need or desire, if you say that with conviction and authority, like, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm doing, most of the time I'll need to think about it, but they'll come back and most likely they'll be like, yeah, okay, because they can see you're really standing for yourself. If you go and be like, yeah, so, if you leave the door a little bit open, like they'll find a way out of not meeting your demands or your requests or your wants. So I think doing everything with authority for yourself, like you need to be standing for, no one else is going to stand for you. Like you need to stand for yourself. No one else is here to do that for you. People will say they do, but genuinely everyone needs to stand for themselves. Like the only one who can make improvements and really get somewhere is you standing for you and what you want. And that boundaries is key to that.
Yeah, just taking, I read a really great book the last couple weeks called The Great Leap. And he talks about with conflicts, like taking 100% responsibility for your side of, the conflict. So each party has to take 100% responsibility rather than like you have 80% responsibility or whatever. And when you start coming from that perspective of like, I have 100% responsibility for whatever the situation is, then you start kind of looking at it more from like a problem solving perspective rather than an emotional one. It's like, okay, right. So what can I do here to change this differently? And I think standing up for yourself and having authority, yes, 100%. But a lot of the things, the one thing that I would like to maybe layer on to that is a lot of women are so afraid of standing in that place of conviction and authority that they end up coming off aggressive, which again has a detrimental impact, So it's like being really happy that you are standing up for yourself and like having authority, but also realizing like the tone and the way in which you approach someone, like, is it a projection of how I'm feeling or the insecurity I'm feeling, or that I feel like I need to be aggressive to get these things done? And, just reflecting almost like that mirror back at you. Like if someone was approaching me like this, how would I respond to that? So just trying to remove the negative, like, and I get it. Like it's so easy to be so frustrated with someone and be like, ah! And I've been very aggressive in my past. And that's always been down to an insecurity in myself, So I guess it's just a word of caution from somebody that's been very aggressive, roadie, like background and career.
But it's so true though. A lot of people who are just throwing it out there and like, oh shit, hell for leather. But I think that's what if you still feel that, like that's the way you need to kind of approach people and behave. That means you're not, you need to first of all, like, who do I want to be? Like, what am I being? Who am I being? What is that person like? If that person is like, oh, I want to be this aggressive, that's your prerogative. But if you're like, no, I want to, I want to be successful. I want to be calm. I want to be kind. I want to be a good leader. I want to be whatever it is that you want to be. And you need to feel all of that. And then you ask the request. You be in complete alignment with completely aligned with who you are. And then you ask it. Like, don't go out and like guns blazing. That's never good. The same thing with your husband. Like, it's never going to get you anywhere. You might as well be shouting angry stuff at him. It's not going to work. Like, you need to be aligned with, like, who are you? Are you an angry person? No, but then why should you portray that? Because then you're not portraying yourself. You need to be your true self, completely aligned, and then you go and ask what you want for, set your boundaries and speak out loud where you stand for. It doesn't have to be aggressive, but it shouldn't be aggressive at all, because then is that really who you are? Because aggression is met with aggression, So you need to be completely aligned with that. And it's so important to have that complete centeredness with yourself. Like, I'm asking this. Why are you asking for this? I'm asking this because I want to, have more time for myself. I want to feel, more empowered. I want to do this. Even write down. I love writing things down and write. What is it that you want? Why is it that you want it? How am I going to get it? And then then stick to that formula and just go and get it. It's. But if you just kind of go, I'm just going to fucking just wing it and go. Like, winging it can be great sometimes, but if this is serious stuff, like this is for you, your happiness and your health, I would do more than wing it. I would start writing things down and making little lists of what it is that you want, because there is really a way for everything, for you to get what you want, really. there is.
Well, I talk about like programming the GPS, like if we don't put the destination in the GPS, and it's going to be really difficult for us to get there. So, just starting to have that conversation with ourselves of, what does success look like for me, or what does happiness look like for me, or what do I really want from my life if I were to like throw out all of the societal kind of, should do's, or I need to have a house like this, or I need to have a husband by this point, or I need to have kids, like all that crap, throw that out. Like what actually would make you happy, and like, starting to have that conversation. And a lot of us don't, and then it's no wonder why we feel very lost, because we haven't set our GPS, so we're just kind of driving aimlessly along. But that's a really great segue into my final question for you today, which is, what does living unrestricted mean to you?
Oh, unrestricted is just being completely free, of just shackles to anything, feeling like anything is holding me back, being able to do stuff for me, to lift me up, and being my own strong foundation, which just everything else just builds on top. We forget about ourselves so much that we don't realize that we are like the key, like we are the elements, like that is us. And for me, continuously building myself and working on myself as well as clients is just to kind of just be entirely happy and free with who you are, and not letting anything affect you. So that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of meditation, and seeking that alignment, and being able to lift those rocks, and not being completely fearless of like finding out the dark spots that you've been hiding, because stuff will come up and trigger you. But like learning and understanding that none of the past matters. Like nothing that you've done in the past has any effect on what you do with your future at all. And just learning to just be you. That is for me, and just feeling really freaking good about myself, and all the choices and actions and everything. That is for me just all the way unrestricted, not letting the negative pull me into anything. Oh yeah.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Oh, Jen, you are amazing. This has been such a great chat. Thank you so much for joining me on Unrestricted.
Sorry if it's a bit long, but I told you I can speak till the cows come home. But
no. We're just on. Yeah, we're just on time. Like, and it's great because we got to dig into, really interesting areas about your life, and all these things that have, kind of informed them, and this amazing work and this mission that you're going on. It's so aligned with what I'm all about, like let's raise each other up and get rid of, this crazy life.
Can I just say one more thing? One thing that I really have discovered this past couple of years, the past year even more so, is, well, a couple of years with one, beer, the importance of community, tribe, all that. Also how important it is for us women to really stick together and lift each other up. We can achieve incredible things together. And that's something I find with the Spartan, the women that I run with. Oh, it's so uplifting and it's so empowering. And in any area, we can lift each other up, and rather than bitching behind each other's back and calling each other bad moms and all this fucking bullshit. That is bullshit that we've been conditioned to. Girl power, sisterhood is how we get stronger together.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so on board with that. And, the way that we will all progress as, a gender or sex or whatever we want to call it is by supporting each other, exactly. Whatever our identity is. Like,
exactly, whatever identity,
empowering each other.
The important is that we look after each other. Stop pointing fingers and stop whispering, stop shouting to each other how amazing we are. And that's how we get more powerful. And that's how we get louder and stronger in our boundary settings, etc.
100%. Yeah. Like supporting each other, being examples for each other, and, being support and helping each other on this amazing journey, but also very confusing with all the conflicting messages and you know, things that we've been getting our whole lives. So I'm totally with you on that one. Oh, thank you so much, my lovely. You're amazing. And if you guys want to check out Jen in the description below, there's links to her Instagram and her coaching. So I definitely encourage you to check her out. So thank you so much. I'm gonna just put you off to one side while I just say goodbye to everybody. So
yeah,
cool.
bye.
Thank you. Oh, wow. That's amazing. A little bit emotional for me. This is the end of season 1 of Unrestricted. This was episode 10. So it was a bit of an experiment and a journey. And, you know, we've heard from 10 absolutely incredible, amazing women from all walks of life, from all over the world. And I love putting this together. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to plan and get something together. Already got amazing guests lined up for the next season. So thank you so much for tuning in and your support so far. Also, just want to say really quickly that the 5-day to-do list challenge is back. I ran this challenge a couple weeks ago, and in 5 days, it was incredible what people were doing in the group. Like 3 different people set up businesses. We had people like reducing their overwhelm in a matter of days. So check it out. Go to getunrestricted.com. It's completely free, and I take you through a 5-day process. It's like project management for your life to reduce your overwhelm and get all those things out of your head, organize them, tell them who's boss, and really feel like you're in control. So get your productivity superpowers in alignment there. So that's it in terms of announcements. And please do like and subscribe to this channel. And comment and let us know what you thought of this episode. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend.